Dr. Eva Wojcik, you're president of the College of American Pathologists Foundation and chair of the Department of Pathology at Loyola University Medical Center in Chicago. And Linda Goler Blount, you are president and CEO of the Black Women's Health Imperative. I'm so happy to see you both and to talk about these important issues today. And Dr. Wojcik, let me start with you. Tell us a little bit about the See, Test, and Treat program.
First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here and talk about See, Test, and Treat program. See, Test, and Treat program, it's a program sponsored by the College of American Pathologists Foundation, and it's led by pathologists. We provide free screening for cervical and breast cancer for women who wouldn't have opportunity otherwise. We target specific communities in need. They have an opportunity to talk to physicians, quite often in their native language, because depends on the location. We have people making sure that we have translators to address those who are English language deficient. All volunteers look and speak the same languages as the patients. So patients feel very comfortable there and feels welcome. They are extremely welcome. We are so happy that we can provide those services.
Linda, the Black Women's Health Imperative is the first and only nonprofit created by Black women to advance health equity for Black women. You know better than anyone the barriers women of color face. Why are programs like See, Test, and Treat so critically important when it comes to trying to close that gap?
Yeah, you're right. There are lots of community-based programs, lots of efforts to bring care to communities. What makes See, Test, and Treat different is that it actually takes care to the community. It doesn't make the community come to where the providers are. But as Dr. Wojcik says, it uses people and works with people from the community. You talk about some of these barriers. There's where treatment is located is a barrier. Transportation is a barrier. The system can be a barrier. Women can get the clear message, Black women and brown women, that they're not wanted in those settings. And so they're discouraged from seeking screening care or treatment. With a program like See, Test, and Treat, people come to their communities, people that they know, people who look like them, as Dr. Wojcik says, people who speak the language, people they can trust, and that means more than everything. And so what happens in programs like this is conversations take place that would never happen in a doctor's office. So yes, we're here to talk about cervical cancer or breast cancer and screening and what that means and to get the screening done and get you your results. That's wonderful. But women get to talk about their lives. They get to talk about other things that are happening that impact their health care or their ability to receive health care. And the providers involved can listen and do listen and offer advice well beyond cervical and breast cancer screening.
You even provide transportation if they
exactly.
can't get to the event with things like free bus passes, or you provide rides.
That's correct. As a matter of fact, when the woman is being registered for the program, there is a question, are you going to have a problem to get here? And in this case, we provide the transportation if it's needed.
In some cases, obviously, I'm sure in many cases, you have saved lives. There's the story of Tamika, for example, in Jackson, Mississippi. Tell us about her.
So Tamika's story, it's an amazing story. Tamika, mother of 3, for many years, she had abnormal pap tests, but for the reason discussed, never follow up. She didn't have a pap test for 5 years at all. She learned about See, Test, and Treat. She came to the program in Mississippi. It was detected that she already had a cervical cancer. As I mentioned, those programs are taking place on Saturday. By Monday, she had a confirming biopsy. By Wednesday, she was getting radiation therapy. She's like, by now, most probably about 4 or 5 years after the treatment, doing well, and she's one of the advocates right now for a screening.
So I have become these women's friend. They call me personally now. So they're scared, they're afraid, they don't know what to do. But I have gave them my testimony. I gave them my story. I talked to them about the program. I let them know that it's going to be okay. It's just that we need you to come in. We need you to come in to be seen. We need you to come in to tell what's going on, because we won't know unless you come. If this program wasn't here, I would never got diagnosed. I wouldn't be speaking to you today. I probably won't be here. I just really thank God that this program impacted my life. Not only my life, my children. I get to be with my children.
We have those real stories of patients who were exactly, they knew that they have an issue, but they never had the opportunity to get treatment and have opportunity really to confirm this.
Linda, I know that January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, which is an important reminder for women, especially women of color, to stay on top of their screenings. What do you wish every woman knew about cervical cancer screenings?
The most important thing for every woman to know is that cervical cancer is preventable. You know, there's been steep declines in cervical cancer mortality rates, but in the last few years, the rates have begun to creep up just a little bit. And there's no reason for that. If we detect it early, it can be treated, but if we get the appropriate tests, we can prevent it. And so all of this is happening at a moment when the U.S. Preventive Services Task Force is considering changing guidelines that would make that more difficult. And the last thing we want to do is put a barrier between a woman and cervical cancer testing. Since we know how to prevent it, we've got to make sure that women know how important it is to get their Pap test, and for women over 30 to get both a Pap test and HPV test, because that is the best way to make sure that they don't have cervical cancer. And again, I'll say no woman should die from cervical cancer.
The mortality rate from cervical cancer disproportionately impacts Black women, doesn't it?
It does. And despite all the advances we've made in reducing mortality from both cervical cancer and breast cancer, Black women still die at twice the rate from cervical cancer as compared to white women. So that is a reflection of getting tested, getting their Pap test, getting their Pap and HPV, and getting treatment if some abnormalities are found.
Cervical cancer is increasing.
In the last few years, the data show that the rates have begun to tick up for women under 50, and it's unacceptable. And so we know how to prevent this. We just need women to get screened.
And why is the incidence increasing?
Well, we've seen a drop-off in some screening rates. We've seen a reluctance to get follow-up after maybe getting abnormal finding. So we've got to get women back into the system. We've got to make sure they have access, they know they have access, and that they get the Pap tests that they should get.
The Pap test is the most amazing test ever invented. We don't realize the Pap test is the most successful test. Before introduction of the Pap test, cervical cancer was #1 killing women. That was #1. After introduction of relatively simple Pap test, today, as I mentioned, no woman should die of cervical cancer.
This is the 11th year of See, Test, and Treat, and that's an amazing accomplishment. How do you hope to expand the program so you can serve even more women who would love to take advantage of what you're doing?
We really would like to expand the number of the programs. We do not want to change the number of patients per program because we would lose this intimacy, patient-centeredness, but we really would like to serve many more communities. Each and every community have packets they need those services. And we really would like to go there and provide those services for those women in need. Unfortunately, we are at this point that we cannot provide funds for each and every institution which applies for those grants.
So you'd like to raise more money so you can serve more patients.
That's the bottom line. We really would like to raise more money to have more programs available for women who really need this service.
What are some of your goals when it comes to closing the health equity gap?
Well, my number one goal is that there are no systemic barriers to women being able to make the best choices for their health. That there are no barriers in terms of racism and gender discrimination, that when they go see a provider, they're treated with respect and value, that the team there is happy that they came, that they can count on getting the standard of care, that they can count on their providers looking at them and treating them like their mother, their sister, their most loved person. That as they make their way through society, they're not judged unfairly, that people aren't making decisions for them which adversely affect their health, and that they know that they're valuable simply because they woke up in the morning. That's a tall order. You know, when it comes to the healthcare system, I want to make sure that they get access to the kind of care, the kind of quality care they deserve. But these other issues are larger, will take longer. They're systemic, they're policy decisions, they're behavior decisions. We at the Black Women's Health Imperative are obviously working to eliminate those barriers. We have actually a workplace fairness initiative that will help employers understand what fairness in the workplace means, what it looks like, and how it benefits the health of their workforce. But our message also will be to women. We talk about advocacy all the time. Advocacy is a luxury. It takes time, it takes money, it takes access. Sometimes we blame women for not being the best advocates. We will give women, and we do, the kind of information that they need, but we also have to make sure that they understand this is not all their responsibility to fix these systems, and that there's an organization, the Black Women's Health Imperative, that is there every day trying to fix the system so that when they show up for screening, when they show up for care, they can expect the best, and that's what they deserve.